Good afternoon. I hope everybody's doing well today on this warm Friday. Yeah, we're going to dive into some good stuff today with Osho. But before we do, I thought I'd just want to make a few comments about a couple things that are happening. So one is, as you know, I'm coming out of, I was in a pretty intense ceremony last week and last weekend with the shamans and the plant medicine, and honestly I'm still processing that whole experience. It was quite remarkable, very deep work, and I'm really glad I've done it. And for the most part, I've been feeling pretty good this week, pretty at ease. Except today I feel a little off. It could have to do with finishing up my graduate school program for this summer. It probably has something to do with that. I always get a little bit of resentment near the end of the term and near the end of the course. It's just like it's not a healthy thing. It's this kind of struggle with like getting that last piece completed, and you feel like you've kind of gotten what you meant to do, and now you're just kind of producing. And so I don't know. It's a little bit of a struggle. It's happened before at the end of semester. I remember it happening in graduate school last time I went to graduate school, and so I'm going through a little bit of that now. And so there's a little bit of like hypersensitivity going on at the moment for me right now. So I'm just watching that, noticing it, and just really trying to just breathe into it. Really like not react to it, not take the bait. If I need to rest, I'll rest. If I need to take it easy, I'll take it easy. So it's just like, okay, just keep going here. But the working with the shamans this time, I've worked with them before, and it was much different. This was much more, I don't know, it was a much more productive is kind of one way of putting it, but that's not even really right. It was a more balanced experience in some way. But it was hard. It was hard work, really hard work going into the shadow stuff. But I'm grateful for it. So the other thing I wanted to mention is our friend Clarice. I know we're all kind of sending her good energy, which is a good idea. She's still, I talked to her yesterday briefly, and she's still in the hospital. She's going to be having a different procedure from what she thought she was going to have this week. And they're having to kind of do these preliminary things to kind of get her ready for it. It's a little bit more involved than first blush. And so she's doing well in terms of her spirit. She seems very present, and she seems to feel pretty fine in general. She's being well taken care of and well monitored. But she's going through some stuff, and so we can keep sending her good energy and love and prayers for healing, and I think she will be very appreciative of that. She doesn't probably need too much. Obviously, if you want to send her a text or something like that, feel free to do so. But, she's also, from what I gather from our brief conversation and stuff, like she's needing to really take care of herself. So, one of the things that can happen when people want to reach out, or is that from the patient standpoint, it feels like a burden. Right, because it feels like you're now having to kind of take care of someone else's need to reach out, that kind of thing, So I would temper that, not to say don't do it, do whatever feels true to you. But I think one of the things, and they tell you about this as a counselor too, is to ask yourself, who is this serving? Who is this serving? My reaching out and saying something or doing something or engaging or something like that, is that serving them or is it serving me, right? And sometimes you just ask yourself, and so I think it's a balance. It doesn't mean that we don't deserve to express ourselves and express our love and express our concern. We do. We definitely do. But we also have to, when we do that with the person who's needing that support. We can do it certainly amongst ourselves, but then we just have to recognize that sometimes we're actually burdening them, you know, on some level. We are now making them somewhat responsible for our feeling okay about the situation. So I was just kind of like, I was leaning into that a little bit this week in terms of how much I communicated with Clarice and just feeling that sense of like, don't push this, right? Whose need am I trying to meet here in terms of reaching out and staying in touch? Certainly sending prayers and good wishes and a card or something like that. If anybody wants her mailing address, I can give it to you, whatever. Those are all, you know, totally fine. And yes, they make us feel better, you know, to be caring in some way. But just realize we are dealing with we're dealing with a 90-year-old friend. And so she really has to conserve her energy as she goes through all of this. So that's my comment about that. We're just going to send her prayers. Hope she's back soon, and we'll go on and can continue to cultivate our satsang. You know, continue to nurture it, to water it, to take care of it, so that when she's able to rejoin us, you know, we're available, right? So it'll be good. So today's chapter I thought was one of the best in the book so far, and it really just confronts this notion of, but the one right before this was about the difference between relating and relationship, and I think that's a really good prequel to this conversation. So, you know, kind of keep that conversation in mind as we go into this one, because there's a big difference between relating and relationship. Relationship is a thing. It's something that we have a tendency to covet, right? To feel like it's almost like a thing that is ours, right? And so because of that, we tend to protect it in some way. And in protecting it, we often are not completely authentic, right? Because we're afraid we're going to lose the relationship, right? And this is very different from relating or from what love is, you know? And so we've talked about relating, we've talked about what love is as a state of being, right? And now we're into this notion of relationship and what that is, and this notion of being true, right? Being true to ourselves, being, you know, this commitment to truth. But what happens with most of us in most of our relationships is we temper that. We temper that commitment because we're worried about hurting somebody's feelings, right? And then if we hurt someone's feelings enough, maybe they're going to reject us, right? And maybe they're going, you know, and it's going to change the relationship. So Osho is adamant in this chapter, I mean, really adamant, that is not a path to deep and abiding happiness or enlightenment, okay? It is, it's a path in terms of some egoic safety, right? And that's basically what we're seeking most of the time, right? Now, you can see this quandary that happens. I got a bunch of notes here on this chapter, but the quandary that tends to happen is we want to be seen and held, right? That's this deep, abiding desire, right? To be seen and held, to be accepted for who we are. But we want this so bad, right, that we will do anything to get it, including lying, okay? including not being honest, right? And we've all probably done this. I know I can put my hand up for it. You know, I have not been completely forthcoming about something because I was worried about rejection or about, you know, having to deal with the consequence or having to try to hold space for the other person's disappointment or try to explain myself or whatever, you know. And I've done this with my family, and I've done it with, you know, intimate partners. I've done it, you know. And so, am I proud of it? No, but I've done it. And I've done it, I realized, because I was afraid. I was afraid that I would be rejected in some way, and that then I would, you know, and so this is the quandary that most of us go through. And at some point we don't even
realize it. Like, say for instance, being a nice person. Some of us take on the persona of being a nice person, okay? And I'm going to be a nice person, and people are going, and hence people are going to like me, and it usually works pretty well. But where it falls apart is when we don't really feel like being a nice person, right? And when we feel like maybe we're being offended in some way, or we feel like there's some injustice happening or something like that. Or we feel like someone's not treating us very nicely, and we say, well, if I just be a nice person, they'll stop doing that, Usually that doesn't work. So it's, we often kind of suck it up in some way. And one can do that, sort of temporarily, but it's like if we don't tend to that wound in some way, then it kind of adds up, and when we get this feeling of, oh, I can be naked, but not that naked, right? Which is what we want. Again, really, what we want is to be naked, okay? Naked and be seen and held. We want to be completely, so there's this dissatisfaction that we walk around in most of our relationships because we can't be, because it's like, oh, I can enjoy this aspect of things, but I can't be fully myself, right? I can't be fully exposed. I can't be fully vulnerable. I can't be fully truthful, because then I will be rejected, right? So this is the thing that Osho is trying to get us to do, is to say, well, for one, you don't really know how, like, what's going to happen with the truth. We have a lot of speculation, because usually we have a lot of shame, we have a lot of feelings, of inadequacy, all these kind of things around our idiosyncrasies. And a lot of this has been because people have said things, about, like, you start to kind of maybe venture into that realm, and you start getting this, you're realizing you're triggering the other person now, and so they'll start having some negativity around that issue, right? So which basically shuts it down. Like, they don't want to go there themselves, so they shut it down. Now you're both shut down, and so that what you do is then go back into the comfort zone. Like, oh, let's have a cookie, or let's have a cup of tea, or let's have a glass of wine, or something, something which just kind of like, okay, let's ameliorate that trigger, rather than sit in it and not try to justify it in any way, but just say, can we say, and this too, and this too, and we all have this stuff. We all have the light and the dark, right? We all are. I'm not saying we're not. I think everybody here, I know you all reasonably well, is a nice person, right? We're all a nice person, except maybe yours truly, but everybody else, nice person, right? And but there's darkness here too. There are things that we hide from ourselves and from others, and mostly we do that to kind of just keep the wheels moving along. We don't want to go into that darker work, and that's what I spent last weekend doing, and it is freeing. It is very freeing, and what you realize is eventually you need to do this just for yourself, right? It's like, this goes back to this talk about aloneness, right? And being alone, and this kind of courage to be alone. Like, okay, if a relationship falls apart, and because of my authentic self, because of my messiness, well, then how important really is this relationship? And trust me, you'll come up with all kinds of egoic ideas about why this relationship is so important, when actually, just be by your fucking self. Like, it's just not that bad. We think, and so, but, this is the work. This is the work of, how do I just keep, one, finding what is really true for me, and then moving in that direction, moving what is my truth, who am I, what trespasses have I taken, what is my light, all these kind of things, which we don't usually get to because we're so concerned about this fitting in thing. We're so concerned about getting seen and held, right? But that we don't realize that the deepest part of this is being, I mean, this is our divinity. This is our, we're really seen and held by the universe. We're seen and held by the universe always, right? And so how do we just start to circumvent, stop worrying about relationship with anything, anyone, and just transcend into this? It's not even a relationship, it's just a reunion with that divinity, right? And so it's not like you and the divine are relating. You and the divine are just you're one, right? It's like your left hand and your right hand, and so you're not having a relationship with that aspect of yourself. You are just merging back into that self, and then everything becomes a relationship. Relating, right? Everything becomes like, oh, now I'm relating to this person from this space of divinity, from this space of knowing my true self. But that's and if aloneness is the path to it, then so be it, right? And this is why, again, that traditional path, and why we renunciated, why people would go off into the caves, was just to sort of like, they realized like, okay, yeah, all this stuff here isn't going to get me to this deep abiding heldness, right? Because all this stuff is projecting their expectations, their needs, all that sort of stuff onto me. They're all needing me, wanting me to show up. I mean, I had a conversation with my mom last night, and she talked about quite a bit about how she wants my brother to share more, or wants him to work more collaboratively with the rest of us. And I'm just listening, going, and thinking to myself, yeah, that's just not my brother. My brother's, So her wanting it is actually suffering, right? It's so she's in suffering, and it's not that it's not a nice intention. It is a nice intention, but it's like wanting somebody else to be a certain way. We're back into suffering again, right? It's and others wanting us to be a certain way is mutual suffering, right? And so it's more like, okay, why don't we just be who we are, right? Be this truth. And as we get more room for that, guess what? We get more relaxed, and usually that control shit starts to diminish. Like, so with my brother Sam, that's all control stuff, right? Almost all of this stuff is control stuff. And if you just stop wanting him to be collaborative, right? Just stop expecting it, stop wanting it. Guess what? He's much more likely to reach out and say, hey, I could use your help with this, or do you have some thoughts about this, before he just goes and plows ahead and does it, which is the way he tends to operate, so because he knows best. This is a very, I grew up in a very white, male, egotistical household. It's the way, it's our default, me and my brothers, is, oh yeah, I know how to do that, I'll just take care of it myself, so, but it's not a particularly good way of operating, especially when you have those things are going to affect other people, right? And so my mother's lamenting this, but I'm like, okay, Mom, I mean, you're 86 years old. Is this how you want to spend your time? And so, but I just try to be supportive. I'm supportive of underneath what she wants. What she wants, again, is to be seen and held, right? She wants to be acknowledged. Right, so I just try to stay in that space of acknowledging, understanding what she wants. Arguing with what she wants is like, that's another, that's not going to be helpful. So, this is this work that we're doing here to risk being true, to ourselves, being as vulnerable as we can be. Now, I'm not saying, most of us, again, it's a path, right? So we're being as vulnerable as we can be, and we're just saying, oh, whatever comes back, comes back. And if it's not embracing, then it's because you've triggered something. Okay? That's the thing. It's because you've triggered something in the other person that isn't ready for that truth, not only within you, but within some darkness within themselves. It opens up. It's like immediately opening it up like some other stuff for them, as opposed to, if they've really done their work, their shadow work, and they're going to realize, oh, there's really there's no bounds to how bad this can get, so you're just like, okay, yeah, bring it on, and because you realize, wow, I mean, I'm capable of some pretty horrible shit, so so and if you start to be like recognize that, then it makes you much more compassionate and empathetic with the fact that everybody is and that they're, and then instead what they do is they project it out in these like little meannesses and criticisms and that kind of thing, which is really just a cover-up for their own pain, their own insecurities, their own whatever's bothering them. It's almost always something's bothering them, right? So we just again, he suggested by the end of it, just if you can find one person to do this with, then now you've got some practice, some room, some space in which to feel like I can practice being my authentic self, and then it'll start to change things with your other relationships as well, and you just have more room for everybody to evolve, more room for everybody to just relax, more room for everybody to just be free, right? That's what we want. We want to be free. We want to trust. He talks about trust earlier. Again, these things are all tied together. Why don't I truly trust? And it's because, I spent a lot of time on this past weekend. I don't really trust because I've got some deep trust wounds of betrayal from my childhood. And I had to go and spend some time with those wounds. And that was difficult, okay? But it was also very freeing. And in the end, you end up forgiving myself and forgiving those who trespassed against me. And I mean, this is that deep, these prayers, you go and say these prayers in church and stuff, and they just kind of flow out because you've memorized them. But the truth of them, the actual practice of forgiving one's trespasses, is I forgive those who trespassed against me. Fuck, that is serious work. that is no kidding, and so it's that is deep spiritual work. So, and as we do, we get more free, and we get more that anxiousness about others in my relationship with others. This is the main thing, starts to disappear. And it's like, okay, you start saying like, okay, I'm just gonna stand here naked, and if somebody wants to join me, great. And if somebody doesn't, guess what? I'm still naked. Ha! I'm still here with the universe, and the universe is holding me and seeing me, and if somebody wants to join me, great. And if somebody doesn't, okay, I'm still okay. And so let me see if there's any notes here that I should do before we do our meditation. No relationship can truly grow if you go on holding back. If you safeguard and protect yourself, only personalities meet, and the essential center remains alone. Two fake persons go on meeting, while two real persons remain worlds apart. If you become true, you don't know if your relationship will be capable of understanding and holding the truth, the authenticity. The relationship is the possession. We're identifying ourselves with it. Thus, we are scared of losing it. Thus, we hedge. We retreat back into inauthenticity. The courage and wisdom to be alone, to embrace our essential aloneness, and thus relate authentically in love with others. So we think this is that courage. This is the courage of spiritual work. For the miracle to happen, you have to start being true. The mind and ego will say to go on safeguarding the other and yourself to keep safe. This is the way most relationships are, right here, that sentence, right? The mind and ego will say to go on safeguarding the other and yourself to keep safe, right? So that's like 99% of our relationships. Sacrifice yourself for the truth. I mean, this is where he gets really to the core of this. And tremendous happiness will be yours. undreamed of benedictions will shower upon you. Right? So that's like oh, okay, wow, that's something, right? And do we have this courage to go there, to be again with those darknesses and with those aspects of ourselves which bring up fear or shame? Can we stand in that space? And can we stand in the space with someone else? The problem of all lovers is that deep down they are afraid. They so want to be seen and held, loved. They will sacrifice themselves, their truth for this. But it doesn't work. It's a false promise. It doesn't deeply satisfy. So we go on with the window dressing when the house still feels unsafe. Always wondering, somewhere deep inside, can this house of my relationship weather the impending storms? Go out into the storm and see and realize you can weather the storm regardless of the relationship. You can be free. Once you are true, everything becomes possible. So that's a lot. There's a lot going on here in this chapter. But it's definitely a sort of culminating chapter before we move into the next section of the book. And so sitting with it, just allowing ourselves to sit with the idea of the truth. Can I be with the truth? Am I willing to go into those places that hold me back from being free? What stands between me and being free? What stands between me and the truth? What stands between me and trusting completely, right? Trusting completely. That's the huge one for me. Trusting completely, right? I think I've talked about this before. So this issue of betrayal, which I realize is a big one. It's a big one for all of us. It's a big one for me. I didn't even realize it until recently how big, because I realized recently how I've been betrayed and how wounding it was for me and how it's played itself out in my relationships my whole life. And yet at the same time I've also shared about trust and about betrayal, is that you can trust that people are going to behave in ways that they believe are in their own best interest. That's what they're going to do. And so what we can do is, can we believe in the path of truth, of genuine insight into ourselves, genuine truth with ourselves and with others as the path to freedom. It's not an easy path, because it is going to bump up against all of our preconceived notions about ourselves and about others, and other people's preconceived notions about us and about themselves. It's a courageous path for sure, but like any courageous path, it gets easier, right? The more we venture into it, the more adept we become, and the more we kind of realize the skills, the skills of holding that space, of holding that when we feel that trigger, of not reacting, but just noticing it and noticing what's coming up and noticing, well, when have I felt like this way before, and what trigger is this? It's always triggering something from before at this point in our lives, right? And so it's like, okay, can I be with that child that was feeling betrayed or hurt or criticized or whatever in the moment, and recognize that I am actually okay. When we feel those criticisms, I still have this now, 62 years old, I feel often like a little boy being criticized. I don't feel like a man, I feel like a boy, right? And I think that's probably true for you as well. Like, you feel like this little girl is being hurt. And so you have to kind of be with that little girl, that little boy, and say, it's okay. This person is just projecting their stuff, you know, and you are fine. You are fine. You know, you're doing the best you can. And sometimes we're going to make mistakes, but that's totally okay. Totally, mistakes are part of learning. We don't grow without mistakes. So it's like, okay, and this too. I am divine. I am eternal. I am whole. I am enough. Right? I am good. I am beautiful. I am okay. Right? And then we just keep going. You know. But what we tend to do is, again, we put the clothes on. We say, oh, okay, I'll dress up the way, you know, it makes people more comfortable. Right? Or I'll keep trying to jump through those hoops and hurdles so that this person won't be disappointed in me in some way. Fuck. You know, it's like, yeah, but I'll do it. I've done it. I've done it a million times. So it's like, when am I going to stop doing that? Right? Whew. All right, let's meditate. Feeling the sit bones into the ground. Crown up towards the sky. Begin to breathe deeply through your nose into your belly. Let your belly rise away from the spine on the inhale breath. Let your belly fall back down towards the spine on the exhale. Inhale, chest rises, belly rises. Exhale, chest falls, belly falls. Soften the shoulders, soften the face. Keep the spine elongated, chin back, crown up, shoulders back, heart open. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale, chest rises, belly rises. Exhale, chest falls, belly falls. Soften, allow, release. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Engage. Gently pull in and up. Exhale. Hold the breath out. Tuck the chin, go inward towards the spine. Inhale. Hold. Elongate. Chin lock, root lock, pull. Exhale. Hold. One more. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Soften. Allow. Release. Letting go. Soften. Allow. release. And letting go. And feeling yourself just landing here in this space, in this moment. The breath gently rising and falling. Shoulders back, chin back, crown up. Inhale down across the front side. Exhale up the back side. Inhale down the front. Exhale up the back. One more inhale. Hold. Elongate. Gently pull. Exhale. Hold. Go inward. Inhale. And just release. Let the breath return to normal. And just imagine yourself as a small child playing, innocent, exploring the world with curiosity. Vulnerable to the opinions of adults and other children. Notice that feeling of wanting them to be safe. And wish them peace. Wish that young child of yourself happiness. Wish them joy. Wish them courage. Wish for them that they know they are loved. They are held in the hands of God. Always. Wish them to know their own divinity. To know the joys and excitements of life. But even more so, the deep abiding peace that's always available. Wish for that little child to know how divine it truly is. Now think of someone that you love. Someone who may be going through some difficulty or some trial. And send loving kindness to them. Know that they may be scared, they may be uncertain, they may be dealing with some existential truth. Send them peace. Wish for them to know how deeply okay they are, and this is. All that is unfolding is meant to be. Wish them to know their own divinity, their own beauty, their own magnificence. Child of God. Now, hold yourself as you are now. With your wisdom, your experience, your capabilities and gifts, your frailties, your insecurities, your uncertainties, your fears, your strengths. Wish for yourself to know you are divine. You are beautiful. You are whole. You are worthy. You are good. You are enough. You are deeply okay. I am beautiful. I am good. I am worthy. I am whole. I am divine. I am enough. I am okay. I am. Taking a deep inhale breath and exhale with a sigh. No relationship can truly grow if you go on holding back. If you remain clever and go on safeguarding and protecting yourself, only personalities meet, and the essential center remains alone. Then only your mask is relating to you. Two false persons go on meeting, and the two real persons remain worlds apart. Risk is there if you become true. Nobody knows whether this relationship will be capable of understanding truth, authenticity, whether this relationship will be strong enough to stand the storm. There is a risk. And because of it, people remain very, very guarded. They say things that should be said. They do things that should be done. Love becomes more or less like a duty. But then the reality remains hungry, and the essence is not fed. So the essence becomes sadder and sadder. The lies of the personality are a very heavy burden on the essence of the soul. The risk is real, and there is no guarantee about it. But I will tell you that the risk is worth taking. At the most, the relationship can break. At the most. But it is better to be separate and real than unreal and together. Because then it is never going to be satisfied. Benediction will never come. You will remain hungry and thirsty, and you will go on dragging, just waiting for some miracle to happen. For the miracle to happen, you will have to do something, and that is start being true. The truth may be too much, unbearable, but then that relationship is not worthwhile. So that test has to be passed. Risk everything for truth. Otherwise, you will remain discontent. You will do many things, but nothing will really happen. You will move much, but you will never arrive. It is as if you are hungry and you are simply fantasizing about food. Beautiful, delicious, but fantasy is fantasy. It is not real. A dream is not going to give you anything. It will take many things from you, and it will not give you anything in return. The time that you spend using a false personality is simply wasted. It will never come back. Those same moments could have been real, authentic. Even a single moment of authenticity is better than a whole life of inauthentic living. So don't be afraid. The mind will say to you to go on safeguarding the other and yourself, to keep it safe. That's how millions of people are living. Truth is dangerous. Lies are very sweet but unreal, delicious. You go on saying sweet nothings to your lover, and he goes on whispering in your ear sweet nothings. But meanwhile, life goes on, slipping out of your hands, and everybody is coming closer and closer to death. Before death comes, remember one thing. Love has to be lived before death happens. Otherwise, you live in vain, and the whole of your life will be futile, a desert. Before death comes, make it a certainty that love has happened. But that is possible only with the truth. So be true. Risk everything for truth, and never risk truth for anything else. Let this be the fundamental law. Even if I have to sacrifice myself, my life, I am going to sacrifice it for truth. But truth I will not sacrifice. And tremendous happiness will be yours. Undreamed of benedictions will shower upon you. Once you are true, everything else becomes possible. If you are false, it's just a facade, a painted thing, a mask. Nothing is possible. Because with the false, only the false happens. And with the truth, truth. The problem of all lovers is that deeply down they are afraid. They go on wondering whether this relationship will be strong enough to bear the truth. But how can you know beforehand? There is no prior knowledge. One has to move into it to know. How are you to know, sitting inside your house, whether you will be able to withstand the storm and wind outside? You have never been in the storm. Go and see. Trial and error is the only way. Go and see. Maybe you will be defeated, but even in that defeat, you will have become stronger than you are right now. If one experience defeats you, then another, and another. By and by, the very going through the storm will make you stronger and stronger and stronger. A day comes when you simply start to delight in the storm. One simply starts dancing. Then the storm is not the enemy. That too is an opportunity, a wild opportunity to be. Remember, being never happens comfortably. Otherwise, it would have happened already. Remember that being cannot happen conveniently. Otherwise, everybody would be being without any problem. Being happens only when you take risks, when you move into danger. And love is the greatest danger there is. It demands you totally. So don't be afraid. Go into it. If the relationship survives the truth, it will be beautiful. If it dies, then too it is good. Because one false relationship has ended, and now you will be more capable of moving into another, truer, more solid, more concerning the essence. But remember always, falsity never pays. It appears to, but it never pays. Only truth pays. And in the beginning, truth never looks like it will pay. It seems it will shatter everything. If you look at it from outside, truth looks very dangerous, terrible. But this is an outside view. If you go in truth, it is the only beautiful thing. And once you start cherishing it, tasting it, you will demand more and more because it will bring contentment. If you cannot be true to the person you love, then where will you be true? Where? If you cannot be true to the person whom you think loves you, if you are afraid even with them to reveal the truth, to be totally spiritually naked, if even there you are hiding, then where will you find the place and space where you can be totally free? That's the meaning of love. That, at least, is one person's presence. We can be totally nude. We know that he loves, so he will not misunderstand. We know that he loves, so the fear disappears. One can reveal all. One can open all the doors. One can invite the person to come in. One can start participating in another's being. By and by, you will learn that to be true is so beautiful that you are willing to lose everything for it. Then in the marketplace, then truth simply becomes your way of life. Truth has to be learned with those who are very close, because they will understand. Okay. Well, that's a lot going on in that chapter, I will totally admit, but I do think it's definitely for me the most important chapter we've read so far. And how do we begin? So anyways, I've gone on for an hour now, and I would love to hear from all of you about anything that we talked about today, or meditation, or whatever this is bringing up for you today. I'd love to hear from you about it. So feel free to share when you're ready.
Well, this was This was fabulous. I love the meditation. I think I shared with you all that I dealt with my inner child in my 20s, mid 20s. Learned a lot then, and I've always been a believer in truth. And I know when I always discussed it with friends or family, they think they didn't know what I meant by the truth of who you are. They thought it was, oh, don't lie. You know, we've been through that as well. So um, and I love this too because the truth is key in general. You know, I I, I just love that. And um, if you're like a false relationship, is it's okay to let it die because if it's not a real, honest, truthful, the way you can relate, um, you know, I've in relating, I'm still learning, but it's every relationship is not on the same level. So relating is always interesting. Very rarely have I found it certainly happens, but it's not with everybody I've known my whole life thus far. So, um, you know, I have learned, it's funny, my daughter, one of her mantras is I am enough. And I I love that for her. I love it. I think about that for me, and I'm hoping she can take that at a young age of 23 and go forward that she is enough. Or I'm feeling it now. I am enough. And if it doesn't make someone else happy or what have you by me being real and who I am and authentic, I can't worry about changing to make the other person say, oh, she's what I like. Or whether it's girlfriend, relationship, marriages, boyfriends. But to think that and try to follow that mantra at a young age is I really wish that for her because it's difficult to navigate when other people may not see life or see the truth as you do or as perhaps my daughter does, you know. So you don't want to have negative feelings about yourself um, if you think you're not enough for other people. So that's like a really powerful phrase. I love it because we are enough. And I know we all get that here, but I don't know how universal that phrase is and how it carries to everybody. Because I sometimes think, and we've all been there, you know, you're not enough, you're not this, you're not that, you haven't made enough money, you're not wearing the right look. I mean, who cares? But I do know when you're young, you're impressionable and it's hard to be that solid so early. Um, and the relationships are a thing and they should be I'm saying they should. It's great if they're truthful and they're honest. And I've had friendships and I see today, I mean, I've talked about this with you, Greg, oh my gosh, decades ago it seems. um, and it's at first it kind of like, wow, that kind of hurt, what happened, but then after a while it's like, you know what, it's okay. And if it's not truthful, why be in a relationship that's false and it can't be authentic? So this is very deep, beautiful, beautiful chapter. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Denise. Thanks you for sharing. Anyone else like to share? Susan, how's it going for you up there in Maine? You're outside, so it can't be too hot. You're right on the
No,
water there.
it's great here on the porch. It's
Yeah.
cool. Well, I'm behind in my reading. I haven't gotten to this chapter yet, but I love the chapters I have read. And I just there's nothing like seeing it in print or having you just read it to us that if it's not authentic, it's and it was just said so well that if it's not authentic, it's not worth it. It's You just have to let it go. And that is such a hard thing to do, but being given the permission to do that, like giving yourself the permission to do that is very powerful. And I think we're sort of programmed to think that if something's not working out, it's a failure on our part, or possibly something we've done or haven't done, and letting that notion go. And it's what was said just now. I am enough is very empowering, I think. In whatever you're doing, in any creative activity or any kind of a leadership role, we're so quick to doubt ourselves and not confident enough to know that we are enough. And if we're not enough for this other person or our situation, then we need to let it go. So that freedom, I think, is really powerful. I wish I had figured that out. As when you say your daughter's 23, I wish I had known that then. That's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so inspired by this book. I mean, by anyone who can sit down and write all this down and have it come out so truthfully. And the Danilo book is like that too. So thank you, Greg, for these
Thank
books.
you.
I,
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think it's it's humbling to realize that we've kind of spent a good part of our lifetimes, either putting on a false self in some way, trying to appease others so that they will feel better around us and that kind of stuff, and and at the same, we did that, because we needed to at that time. But I think all of us are, we're in a place where it's like we want to have relationships that are really, that are deeper than that are beyond that am I just making you feel comfortable. And that doesn't mean that, that could be part of our authenticity too, that kindness, that generosity, that consideration. I think, but there's also like that's not all of us, right? And there's other more creative places, other, again, maybe less light places that they're also interesting, and they'll also help us to grow and to become creative as well. And so how can we just really, again, be willing to trust that the truth will set us free? Gandhi said the same thing. Others have said the same thing. True, that the key is really being able to sort of discern what that truth really is for us. Why are we feeling this way, or what is this desire? What is underneath a desire? What is underneath a fear? So that we can act not in a reactive way to those things, to whether they're desires or some fear or something like that, but kind of more from the core essence of what am I really trying to do here. And then the other part that I loved, again, about this chapter, a couple chapters ago, or maybe the last chapter, again, the difference between relating and relationship. And if we can just stop worrying about the relationship, that we spend, I can put my hand up for worrying about friggin' relationships, whether they be with my family or with others. All of it was a fucking waste of time. Excuse my language, and all of it. And I have spent many hours in that space, and it was not helpful at all. And really, all I needed to do was focus on what is the core of the relating, not kind of relationship do I want to have? How do I want to relate? How do I want to be with this person? Right? That's all I really have control of. How do I want to be? And I want to be authentic and true, and yes, I want to be compassionate. I want to be a good listener. I want to be really able to take in what the other person is trying to say, either consciously or unconsciously, because people are saying things all the time unconsciously, right? They're still telling you something. All those triggers that they're having is telling you something about them. And if you stop taking it personally, you can actually hear. It's like it's like you can mind read, but you're not, because you're not caught up in your own shit about it. You're just open to, wow, okay, that's
That's telling me something about what this means to that person. And that's interesting. And if I really care about them, then I'm just interested in that. I'm not worried about my relationship with them. I'm actually more interested in what they're revealing to me through their reactions, right? And this is where you can just get much more, like, you realize reactions are actually truth saying. You're saying something truthful in your reaction, but usually it's coming from that trigger itself. It's coming from that, either that insecurity or that fear or that frustration or whatever's happening, and so we just stop worrying about relationship. We stop worrying about relationships. Stop worrying about relationships. We just stop. We're just going to relate. Okay, the next time I see you, I'll relate again. The next time I interact with you, I'll relate again. You stop worrying about where's this relationship going and am I going to have a relationship with them? And it's just fuck it. Just let them be. Let everybody be. Let everybody do their own thing. And then when you have an interaction with them, be present and just be present and relate from a place of as much openness, consciousness, and vulnerability as you believe that moment can handle. I mean, I'm not saying we can be vulnerable with everybody all the time, because most people can't handle it. So it's like, okay, I'm having some more, personality relationship with this person. We have most of our relationships are just personality relationships. It's like, okay. But then there are a few where we can say, you know what? I'm gonna really pay attention here, and I'm gonna listen to myself, and I'm gonna listen to what this person's saying, but not just what they're saying, but how are they responding? You got to start tuning into the energy, and because that's where the truth really lies. People say, it's their rational thinking. Again, they're rational, they're egoic thinking. That's the words coming out of the mouth most of the time, right? But there's all kinds of stuff going on underneath that we can tune into when we're not worried about the relationship. When I'm just going to be present with this person, because this person, and I think the things about our most valuable relationships, again, are the ones where people can, have some capacity for that capacity to be an open space in which I can see and hold the truth of this moment. Those are great gifts. That's about as close to the divine as we get. And then the rest of it we have to do on our own with nature and with God, basically, which we can do. Thank God. And so since we can do that, then we're not as needy. We're not needing others to hold us. We're not needing, it's not that it's not nice. Listen, we can enjoy it. If it happens, if it shows up, great. It's wonderful. But if it doesn't, we're still okay. This is going back to the okayness, right? The okayness is key to this whole thing. So, okay, Brenda, I'm ready for you to do your thing and bring us home.
I just your meditation really touched me, and I started thinking of some old photos of me as a little child. And it really inspired me to want to go back and to dig up some photos and to do a meditation on that as a little child.
That's beautiful.
Getting back to the chapter, take the risk to be true. I can tell you, yes, it is worth the risk to be true, and it's vital. And I'd like to read some of my own thoughts after I read the chapter. I believe we need vulnerability, letting our defenses down, to allow risking another person seeing one's true self. Being authentic means dropping our masks and sharing our true self with another person. Telling the truth is essential for mature relating by being honest about our feelings, our values, our fears, our thoughts, our perspectives. Truth and authenticity are the foundation of a real personal connection. They build trust in an emotionally safe space, which allows a close bond to grow so that two people feel safe enough to accept each other's imperfections. And from the book, a quote or two. A single moment of authenticity is better than a lifetime of inauthentic living. And that's the meaning of love. At least in one person's presence, we can be totally nude, totally spiritually naked.
Amen.
Amen. That's a really good way to wrap up today. Thank you so much for your synopsis and your sharing, and I think it's just really well said. Can't say it better myself. So,
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, my friends, we'll close out and see where life takes us. Let's take a deep inhale. Exhale with a sigh. Inhale. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May there be peace, peace, peace. Namaste.
Namaste. Hmm.
Namaste.
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 Big.
Namaste.
Yeah.
Thank you all so very much for being here, co-creating this sacred space together. Have a beautiful rest of your day and a happy 4th of July. I hope you have a nice holiday weekend. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. I plan to be back here next week, so hopefully see you then.